Hi, I'm William Hamilton, co-founder of SmartPath.co, and today we're going to talk about the best way to answer the big question: what do you charge for a tax return? Every firm that we work with gets these calls. You've gotten these emails, these text messages. Somebody reaches out to you. They found your website, they found you on Google, and they just want to know how much you charge. Well, this conversation can be very frustrating, and it can be frustrating for you and for the potential client. Why? Well, the caller or the person reaching out to you, they want a price right away. They're reaching out to you for a specific service, and they feel like you should just be able to quote them a price. Well, we know that you can't quote them without knowing more about their situation. Where do they earn their income? Do they own a business? Do they have dependents? What's going on in their tax life? And so you don't want to have this whole conversation by wasting time on somebody that's just a tire kicker, someone who's going to grind you on fees, who's just looking for the cheapest possible 1040, and they're not really going to be a long-term fit for your practice. So what's the best approach? How do you answer this question? Well, you need a strategy that's better than just blurting out a fee or a fee range. Most firms just jump into a price conversation without knowing the key variables in the client situation because they want to get through the conversation. They don't enjoy having this conversation, so you're just trying to get through it, and that's understandable. Or worse, you may offer a free consultation. You may offer free time, a half an hour, an hour through a discovery call without knowing what the client's true motivations are before you give them that free time. So what we want to do in this training is we want to give you a proven framework for testing a potential client for fit and alignment before you ever quote them a fee, or even before you offer them a free meeting. And if you test the client first, you can find out how much they're probably going to be willing to pay you so that you're not going to have to undercut your own price by giving a price for a tax return when really they wanted some other type of engagement. You're also going to verify, are they willing to let you diagnose their pain? Are they willing to let you discover what are going to be the best treatment options for the different things that they have going on in their life? And you can see if this is a human being that you want to work with. Does your personality match? Are they going to be a good fit for your staff? Are they going to be a good fit for the types of services that you want to offer in your practice moving forward? And this is a completely different way to start a relationship than most firms approach this, but that difference is going to lead to higher quality engagements, and that's the goal. We don't want you to work with as many clients as you can possibly work with. We want you to work with fewer clients with higher quality engagements that are really going to lead to the practice and to the life that you want to build. Now, what's the danger? What happens if you don't test your clients first and see if they really fit? Well, you could be losing out on potentially high margin engagements because you're not really identifying what the client's true motivations are. You could be wasting time with clients that are never going to be a good fit, and you should have never worked together in the first place. But then you get a year down the road and you figure that out too late, and now it's hard to disengage with that person. Or you could be not on purpose, but you could be overcomplicating the price conversation, and that's limiting the number of ideal clients that you bring into your roster. If you don't structure this first part of the conversation the right way, you could introduce friction into the relationship before it needs to be there. And so you're limiting the amount of ideal clients that you're attracting. And the worst part is you could be feeling completely stressed out about discussing fees rather than just being able to follow a simple, proven process. So how do we discover this framework? Well, we've been fortunate enough for the last 14 plus years to collect data from the thousands of tax professionals that we have worked with. And really, there's a key discovery in that data. If you can align the right client, so having an ideal defined right client, if you can define that person and then align that person with the right service offering. So most firms have multiple levels of services, multiple packages, multiple bundles. So if you can align the right person with the right service offering, and then make sure that that service offering has the right price for that person, then those are the three most impactful KPIs that are going to directly impact a firm's long-term success. And optimizing those three specific KPIs are going to start with that very first conversation that you have with a client. So over years and years of helping firms handle this pricing question, we've been able to identify what's the framework that any firm can follow that's going to lead to the best outcome. So we just want to give you that framework today and teach you how to use it. I'm going to pull up my iPad and go through the worksheet step by step with you so that you can see it and we can talk through it together. You can also go to download.smartpath.co. The link here is on the screen. You can go to that webpage, download the worksheet yourself, and you can follow along. So let's switch over to my iPad and then we'll be able to get started. All right, so this is going to be the client fit checklist. And remember, the goal with this checklist is to test the client and see if they're going to be a good fit for your practice before you discuss price or before you give away free time during a discovery session. So the first thing that we want to do here is we want to identify the pain level of the client. And we're going to identify the pain level of the client by focusing on two specific questions. Number one, are you looking only for tax preparation, or are you looking to lower your overall tax bill? And the big value of that question, if you want to write down on your worksheet here, is we wanted to identify, is the client looking for historic work? Meaning they want us to look in the past, look at the last year that happened, and then just file to the IRS or to the state what has already happened. That's historic work. That's most compliance work. You're looking in the past, and then you're filing things that have already happened in the past. Or are they looking for strategic work? Meaning that they're looking to take their situation and go forward and see, can I improve my numbers in the long term? Now, if we can identify in that first question, are they looking for historic work, or are they looking for strategic work, and are they looking to improve their numbers, immediately we can identify what price range they're going to be in. In historic work, we know that we can only charge so much for that work because the client is comparing us to every other firm in our area that's doing that same type of historic work at 1040 or an 1120 or an hourly rate for accounting, whatever it may be. If we go over here and we look at strategic work, this is where you can really charge a premium level fee because you can fully understand the client situation and you can put together an action plan for how we can help you improve your numbers in the future. So most small firms that we work with right now are going to want to focus their new engagements around strategic work because that's work that you can charge for. That's work that's really going to help you move the needle with your fees. So that's the first question you want to identify is, are you looking only for tax preparation, or are you looking to lower your overall tax bill? Now, the second question we want to answer is, do you want to make progress on any other needs throughout the year other than tax prep? And here, you want to identify what other level of services may this client need help with. So this is going to go back to accounting help is something that clients may need help with. This could be payroll help. This could be strategic advisory. Spell it right this time. Where they're looking to improve their personal or business finances in some way. And so we're not going to give investment advice, but we are going to be able to provide strategic advice where we can help them improve their numbers. Or this could be done for you services. So instead of the client having to manage their own QuickBooks, we can manage their QuickBooks for them. Instead of the client having to manage their own Gusto, we can help them manage their payroll or ADP or whatever the payroll service may be. Any type of service that we could take over for the client that the client doesn't want to do themselves. Or this could be setup or cleanup work. So maybe they're behind 6 months on their accounting. We need to get them cleaned up. Maybe they want to start a new business. So we need to get their EIN filed. We need to get their 2553 filed. We need to help them get an entity, whether it's going to be a C Corp or an S Corp or an LLC. We need to help them get their entity set up. But I want to quickly understand in these two questions what level of pain the client's at. Now here on the bottom of the worksheet, this is a simple equation. High pain equals higher fee. Low pain equals lower fee. Now, of course, you would never wish that another human being is in pain. That's not the point. That's not what we mean by that word. What we mean by, is there something happening in the client's life that's causing them uncomfortability, something that we can help them with? If they are uncomfortable in some way because their accounting isn't up to date, or their business isn't running the way that they wish they'd want it, or they feel like they're paying too much in tax, whatever that may be, if they're feeling that pain and that uncomfortability, they're going to have more motivation to get help. And they're going to be willing to allow us to truly diagnose where that pain's coming from. And then again, put together an action plan up here. Remember, put together an action plan for how you can help them improve that. So we're not saying we wish that people be in pain. That's not the point. But if they are feeling some level of uncomfortability, we can charge a higher fee, versus if they're not in much pain, then we're going to have to charge a lower fee because they're not going to be very motivated to get help. They're also not going to be very motivated to allow us to diagnose what's going on because there's not much to diagnose. And so these first two questions are going to do a ton to help you identify, is this the client that we want to work with? So the first big check mark that you want to check off on the worksheet is, did I diagnose a pain level? And you're going to use those two questions to do so. The next thing that we want to do in this process in identifying the client fit is you want to explain your discovery process. People will not walk forward into a dark room, but if you turn the light on, people can see there's no danger there, they're probably going to take that first step. So we want to make it clear to the client what the next step in the process looks like, what that discovery process really means. So you could say something like, we start by understanding what results you want to achieve or avoid in your tax and financial picture in the next 12 months. Then we put together pricing options that you can pick from to best match your goals. And as soon as you choose your option to make your payment, now we can get to work executing your action items throughout the year. Plus, we can take care of any tax or accounting or payroll or other compliance needs that you may have. Now, at this point, the client's going to say something like, well, that sounds interesting. How would I know what my specific price could be? And here in the worksheet, we're going to give you some additional talking points. So you could say something like, well, we're going to start with a free discovery session to make sure that you're going to be a good fit for us and verify that our process is going to be a good fit for you. Then by the end of that meeting, we'll have an idea of a price range that will match your needs, and we can talk about giving you more details around that. And the next step is I can email you a PDF to review before our meeting. Can we get that scheduled? And so if you go through this discovery explanation, help the client really understand what the next steps are and how they can get an exact price that's going to match what they need, then they're usually going to be willing to move forward. So that's the second step, is you got to actually explain your discovery process. Now, the last piece of this checklist is you're going to want to set up your discovery meeting. This is a big piece of the puzzle that a lot of firms miss. You want to be able to send the client a document that outlines for them all the major components of working with your firm. We call this document your client guide PDF, and you want to make sure that you make it clear to the client that they need to review this PDF before your call, or you're going to need to reschedule that meeting. And then you can book a date and a time based on their verbal commitment to review that client guide by that date. You can also, before your discovery meeting, you can request any data for your discovery call, whether that's the last 2 years tax returns that you want to look at. Do you want to try and grab an up-to-date P&L and balance sheet, any active IRS correspondence, anything that they may need there. Now, if you go to the link that we provided in the video, the download.smartpath.co, there's also going to be a client guide worksheet that will help you put together your own client guide. If you want help with putting together a client guide, let us know. But here are the 6 things that really need to be in your client guide. Number 1, what are my options for working with you? Okay, that's the first thing that your guide needs to address. Number 2, how do I know which option is best for me? So what are the things happening inside of your different options? What are the things happening inside of my personal tax life that would identify for me as the client which option may be best for me? Number 3, when should I choose an option? So people have been conditioned that you buy a big screen TV right after the Super Bowl or right before the Super Bowl. That's usually when they have a sale. You try to buy a car at the end of the month or at the end of a year. That's usually when you're going to have a sale. Your clients think the same way. Is there a certain type of year? Is there a certain time of the month? Is there a certain season when I should choose an option that's right for me? And so your client guide needs to address that. The next thing that it needs to address is price ranges. So you want to make sure that you give a starting at price. You don't have to quote a specific price for a specific scenario, but you want to give them a price range. For businesses, we usually range from this price to that price. For individuals, we range for this price to that price, because before you give away that free time with the client, whether it's a half an hour, or whatever it may be, you want them to see your price range and know if that's palatable. If your price range isn't palatable, then there's no reason that you or the client should waste the half an hour in that meeting. We want to disclose a price range in the client guide so they can get that information before the meeting. The fifth thing is, why should they work with you over other options? So here we need to get specific about our unique value, how we approach a specific process to help clients get better results. If you don't have good language around that, again, feel free to reach out to us. We can help you with crafting your client guide, but that's a big question. Why should I work with you versus H&R Block versus TurboTax versus the other CPA or EA down the street? You know, what's going on inside of your practice that's going to give me unique value for why I should work with you? And then the last thing that it needs to highlight is the next steps. So again, providing clarity of, once we have that discovery meeting, once you choose the right option at the right price for you, here is the next step in our process for us to actually move forward and get started with you. So if you can identify those 6 things and put them in a document, that document becomes your client guide PDF. And again, if you go to the link that we provided, we will give you a worksheet to help you create your own, or feel free to reach out and we can help you with that. So I want to switch back to the deck now that we've gone through our questions here. And we can talk a little bit about the biggest myth around using the client fit framework. And the biggest thing that we hear from our firms that we work with when we start this process with them is, I don't have time to do this with my clients. And the reality is that could be very true right now. You may not have time to follow this process with a client before you begin working with them. But here's my question. How are you going to start letting go of non-ideal clients without having to take a pay cut if you don't bring in new clients? Again, the goal isn't to work with as many clients as you can at the lowest possible price. The goal is to work with the right amount of clients at the right price points that's going to create the firm that you want. And so if I'm going to start letting go of non-ideal clients, I got to be able to replace them with ideal clients so that I don't have to take a pay cut. I don't have to lose revenue. And the data shows that following a process like this, it's going to take less time because you have a finite structure that you can follow. So yes, you may have to take 5 to 10 minutes before your discovery call now, but that's going to save you hours and hours of lost time later by bringing in a client on your roster that's not going to be a good fit, or by working with a client that you can't charge enough and you don't have enough margin on. And so you're losing time and you're losing revenue. So when you think about the time, I don't want you to think about just how long it's going to take to do this process. I want you to think about the time that it would cost if you bring in a client that's really not a good fit. So quick recap, 5 minutes up front can save you hours of pain later. The first thing you want to do is to identify the client fit. Is you want to test their pain level. Then you want to explain your discovery process. And then you want to set up your discovery meeting. Those are the 3 things that you need to do in the right order that's going to get you a better result. So please feel free to go to download.smartpath.co, download the client fit framework. We have lots of different tools, worksheets, checklists at that link that you can get access to. We thank you for being with us in this training, and we'll see you in the next.